gentlemen, here are the starting fives. Karşılaşmanın ilk beşleri. In the point guard position for Australia is number 5, 5 numara Patrick Mills. And representing Slovenia in the point guard position is number 5, 5 numara Jaka Markovic. In the shooting guard position for Australia is number 6, 6 numara Adam Gibson. Shooting guard for Slovenia is number 11, 11 numara Goran Dragic. Small forward for Australia is number 7, 7 numara Joe Ingles. Small forward for Slovenia is number 10, 10 numara Bojan Napar. Power forward for Australia is number 14, 11 numara Matt Nielsen. Power forward for Slovenia is number 14, 11 numara Miha Zupan.
It's a great story. Number 13 has been a huge player for this Slovenia team, and David Anderson, who's had some stomach trouble in the starting lineup. No doubt he'll go up against Primoz Brezic, a veteran campaigner in Europe and in the NBA. The winner moves on, and I believe they'll play the winner of Turkey-France. The loser will go home.
Yeah, only positions 5 to 8 after the semi-finals are decided. No positions 9 to 16 decided at these tournaments. Well, the Australian fans easily outnumbered by the Slovenians.
Yeah, the fans, unlike yesterday, extremely late filing in, and you almost have to wonder if Turkey have bought up most of these seats and are having kind of a leisurely late lunch and showing up here in Istanbul. But this place will be rocking, make no mistake. The Slovenians have provided Istanbul with quite a great theater. Hello and welcome to Istanbul. We're ready for the jump between Australia and Slovenia. 8 finals action here in Istanbul. Slovenia win the opening tip. I'm Jeff Taylor. I'm joined by Roy Birch. And we've already seen 2 great games, Serbia and Spain winning their respective 8 finals. Which team will be the next to advance to the quarterfinals?
Well, there are no rabbits when you get to the last 16 of a big tournament. And Jaka Lakovic starts things off for Slovenia from the corner.
So Lakovic had a big game against Brazil in the 4th quarter. Brazil came back from a 17-point deficit, and Lakovic hit a couple of big 3-pointers. Seems almost as if that's kind of gotten him on track. Pat Mills dumps it over to Ingles. Baseline, and Zupan with the rebound. Dragic, very quick, notch bar for 3. And good rebound from Zupan, goes up strong. He's played in the EuroLeague before, as has this man who's been at Barcelona, been one of their leading players. Didn't have quite as prominent a role this past season. Dragic lowers his head, I think, and is called for the charge.
His first personal, birinci faul, and team's first, Slovenya'nın birinci periyottaki ilk faul.
Well, Australia started off in their double high post offense, Anderson and Nielsen.
Well, Anderson can pop, but Mills is the one who lets it go. Oh, behind the back, a little bit too fancy for Ingles, and Brett Brown doesn't like that. And quickly to the other end is Goran Dragic. Notchbar had to have the follow, but ball bounced out of his reach. And it goes to Nielsen. And he's a little bit too heavy with his shot.
Well, I have to say it's the traditional slow start for Australia. They didn't start in any of their group games well. Even against Germany, they were down in the first couple of minutes, but came back strongly. There's a holding foul against David Anderson.
We'll get another look at this. Well, actually, it was kind of a tough call to make against Anderson, just standing there and bracing for the contact from Goran Dragic, who went down like a sack of wheat. Lakovic inbounds the ball. Zupan back to Lakovic. He's had 1 3 and off target on that one. Scraps for the ball, goes out of bounds. And remember, Anderson and Lakovic, former teammates at Barcelona, and good call by the referee. Anderson played at Barcelona before he went to the Houston Rockets in the NBA last season.
Well,
good D from Gibson.
Well, that's the second call that Australia have had, and it's just gone off an Australian foot, so they're playing tough defense.
Well, the best comment from Brett Brown before this game was, we're not going to out-athlete them, but we can play great defense. And Gibson, that's his speciality.
First foul, Patrick Mills. Yeah, Australia beat Angola on defense. A very angry coach Brett Brown called timeout after about 7 or 8 minutes when Angola were running away with it. And I heard him say, if you want to win this game, well, if you do, then you've got to play defense. The defense that we have mapped out, not the defense that you think you want to play.
I'm sure he probably used some harder words than that, Roy.
Certainly did.
Notchbar in the corner. And Ingles, tough assignment, gets the hand up. Good job, but they don't box out Primoz Brzic, and he goes up and has a chance for a three-point play. And Brown's not going to like that. He's going to immediately bring in Alex Maric as well as Brad Newley.
Maric replaces the captain, Matt Nielsen, and Brad Newley. He comes in for Mills. Very, very impressed with Brad Newley in the group stages. Had a couple of incredible dunks, right hand, left hand, and two-handed dunks against Angola.
But short with the free throw was Primoz Brzic. So Gibson now, I guess, becomes the point guard with Mills going to the bench. So Captain Nielsen takes a seat. Coach not happy with the lack of rebounding. Here's Maric. He was the sensation at Partizan, but turns it over immediately. Bounce pass from Dragic to Lakovic. They go back and forth, and Lakovic ends up with it. Oh, Goran Dragic. Brown wanting the turnover, but it wasn't given. You can see him talking to the referee in your screen. 7 on the shot clock. Here comes Lakovic. He shakes and bakes into the lane. Bounce pass to Primoz Brzic. Draws another foul.
Yeah, it's all Slovenia at the moment. 4 fouls against Australia and still 6:40 to go in the first period.
Well, Brzic missed the last time down, but he makes that one.
7 seasons in the NBA, the man on the foul line. So much sought after player, really. 7-0.
I think he was a reserve of Philadelphia. 2 years ago, he was with Roma in the EuroLeague. Brzic. And I assume he's going back to the NBA for next season. Maric hands it off to Newley, who drives hard to the basket, puts it up, and Australia can't buy a basket here at the start of the game.
Well, 6:24 to go, 3.5 minutes gone in the first period, and Australia really struggling. I've never seen confidence drain out of a player as quickly as I have this week, as it's drained from Alex Maric.
Well, Alex Maric, I don't think is 100%. He's been bothered with some type of flu bug or something, but Australia in a 2-3 zone, trying to seal off the interior passing. Zupan, we talked about him stepping out, and he does there. And Notchbar keeps the ball alive. Goes out of bounds to Australia, much to the relief of the Boomers.
Well, Brett Brown resisting the temptation to call an early timeout. He's walked to the table and thinking about it, but just holding off for a second or so. If Australia score this time, he may delay it. And that's a holding foul against Slovenia.
Yep, the foul on Miha Zupan.
Foul number 13, Miha Zupan. His first personal foul in Jakarta. And
the team's second foul. So a long way to go before they're in any type of bonus situation. Maric hands it off to Gibson. Australia just needs something to go down. Nielsen's going to come back in as well as Mills. They've had a breather. Think about it. Australia would like to get something down low if they can. Maric sets the high screen. Over to Anderson. Puts up a three, rushes it. And really just a nightmare beginning for Australia. Completely out of sync, without a basket, without a point. 4.5 minutes into the contest.
There's Anderson and Gibson coming out. And Mills and Nielsen back in. Again, no timeout from coach Brett Brown. That surprises me now. If Slovenia score this offense, then that is highly likely he'll call one.
Notchbar, size advantage on Brad Newley. And Notchbar, that's about all Newley could do was just try to impede him. He certainly wasn't going to block his shot. And Maric tries to keep it alive. Ingles dumped down low, turns it over.
Poor pass, actually. There was no way Maric could receive that.
Great block from Alex Maric.
He redeemed himself.
Here's another look at Maric. So got some hand possibly on that one.
There are some Aussies in the crowd. They're crying for defense.
Well, Zupan puts it up, no good, and Newley now as Australia go after their first points of the game. Newley goes right into the middle of the lane and draws the foul.
Foul number 15, his first personal.
And still, nothing for Australia. It's not a shooting foul, out of bounds.
Ingles going to inbound the ball. Wonder what is the longest, if an international game has ever not had a point scored in the first quarter. I'm not even going to think about that. There's no way. That's not going to happen. 4.5 minutes remaining. Pat Mills receives the inbound pass. Now it's Nielsen.
This is terrific defense from Slovenia. Every pass being half denied.
Pat Mills. Mills could have passed it off to Maric, but chose not to. Maric tried to dunk it on the follow and missed it. And Pat Mills reaches in, and second foul for Pat Mills.
Veteran play there from Jaka Lakovic. So there was no help. Took Mills on, drew his second foul. And now the timeout for Australia, and not too soon.
Well, timeout. The men in green. Well, it can only get better if you're looking for a hope, because it certainly can't get any worse for Brett Brown's team. Zero for 8 from the floor for Australia. Slovenia not really doing that much better as well, just 2 of 10.
I was about to say, if there's one consolation for Australia, it is that Slovenia have only scored 7 points. They're totally dominant at the moment, but they're only 7 ahead.
And that confirms it. 0 of 6 inside the arc for Australia, 0 for 2 outside, and Slovenia struggling as well. So far, a defensive struggle being edged by the Slovenians. Well, Slovenia will be at the EuroBasket next year in Lithuania. They qualified automatically as a semifinalist last time. That was good enough to get them to the World Championship. And I think it's safe to say Australia will not be at the EuroBasket. They've got the Oceania Championship. Lakovic makes the first free throw. 3 of 4 at the line for Slovenia. It's now 4 of 5. So not a good start for the Australians, it has to be said.
Well, Australia have made 3 changes of personnel. Slovenia, none.
Pat Mills into Maric again, facing Zupan, and Nielsen goes up for the board, claiming he was fouled on the follow-up.
Nielsen glares at referee Brazauskas, but number 1 referee, at least in Europe, knows what he's doing.
But the great thing about basketball is, as bad as it gets sometimes, it can get equally good. Right now, though, it's all good for Slovenia. They've suddenly getting the 3-pointer from Dragic. And Nielsen goes in and finally stops the rock. 6.5 minutes. Just over 6.5 minutes, and it was Ingles.
Well, you're not going to get you 0 period there, Jeff. 12-2 at last, Australia. Trouble the scorer.
See if that sparks a run. Brezic gets the dump, and nope, called for the travel, and he doesn't like it, Brezic. I think Australia kind of bailed out on that one.
Yet another change of personnel for Australia. David Anderson back in, Alex Maric out, and Mills back in.
Jure Slokar also getting off the bench for Slovenia. Pat Mills back outside to Anderson. He's a good shooter, Anderson. There's Nielsen on the baseline, and he's fouled by Zupan.
Just what Slovenia did not want. They don't want to give Australia anything easy. And Nielsen on the foul line. Not the best foul shooter in the world, but...
well, that's a cardinal sin. You don't want to foul the jump shooter. And I'm sure that's what the Slovenia assistant coach is telling Zupan. And that was Ingles. The first points for Australia.
Another interesting substitution for Australia. David Barlow on. And I like this kid. He's a real athlete. It works very, very hard on defense. The number 10 for Australia can certainly get off the floor as well.
He was in that Australian team that played 4 years ago in Japan. Nielsen making just one of 2.
Lane violation by the Slovenians.
So interesting. I think Nielsen thought maybe he was in the lane too early, but the call was against Slovenia. Must have been on Brezic. See if Nielsen can take advantage. He's the captain. And he does get that one to go down. Sandy Bacerovic in and inbounds the ball to Lakovic.
And some pressure now from Australia, but Slovenia get the ball over the halfway line with consummate ease.
Well, a very quick lineup in terms of the backcourt. Got Bacerovic, Lakovic, and Dragic. And here's Bacerovic. The rotation over to Slokar, who can shoot from outside, and Anderson comes in and picks off the ball, picks off the steal.
One pass too many from Slovenia.
And up ahead, it goes to Matthew Nielsen. And suddenly there's life in the Boomers.
Great fast break there from Australia. Beautiful pass from Mills, and the captain finishes it off. And still some pressure from Australia now with 2:15 to go in the first period. They only trail by 6.
Well, Mills almost read that pass to Bacerovic. Lakovic, Slokar, and the ball goes out of bounds. And all of a sudden it seems like Slovenia out of sync, and Coach Bacerovic encouraging his team, but looking almost anxious at the moment.
Well, a classic example there of a team that thought they'd beaten the press, then they relaxed when they got the ball in the front court and threw it away. That's what the press want you to do. And that's a poor pass from Anderson. Great hustle from Nielsen. Referee's undecided.
And the break. I think a break. Certainly Slovenia contesting that call. Well, but Mills was trying to feed the ball inside to Anderson, and
yeah, Patrick Mills got away with a bad turnover there. Referee's consulted.
Here it is again. And the hustle from Nielsen.
And it was the foot of Jura Slokar that last touched the ball. Lakovic can't believe it.
Well, as bad as it was for Australia, if they would have knocked down a 3 here, they'd only be trailing by 3 points here in the final 2 minutes of the opening quarter. Nielsen has the bit between his teeth. You can see he wants to get after the Slovenians. Good play. They fell asleep. Shot clock violation.
Great hands there from Jaka Lakovic. And Patrick Mills having a bit of a nightmare.
Well, Mills really did emerge as the new star of Australian basketball at the Olympics in Beijing. So far off to a rough start here against Slovenia. Lakovic off the back of the rim, but Dragic soars in for the rebound.
Under a minute and a half to go in the first, but it's only a 6-point lead for Slovenia. It could have been so much more.
Kacerovic into the lane, and now Slovenia is struggling on offense as well. Pat Mills drives in and a little bit out of control. Nielsen bats it outside to Newley. Into the corner to Mills for the 3. That hits every part of the rim and bounce out as well.
I just get the impression that Pat Mills is just trying too hard. He's trying to win it by himself at the moment, and the layup increases the lead to 8.
Oh, Dragic quickly to the other end. So that's a 5-point swing, and it's back to an 8-point advantage. Under 40 seconds remaining. Pat Mills finally gets it to go down.
Yeah, Pat Mills is playing like a man possessed at the moment with 30 seconds to go. He's trying to do it all himself.
About 8-second differential in the game clock and the shot clock if Slovenia get it up quickly. Get it back. No, not now. And foul outside, so it wasn't a shooting foul.
But Australia have been in the penalty a long time, so Slovenia go to the line.
So they'll get free throws. At least we're seeing a little bit more from Australia here. There's another look at Barlow reaching in and committing the foul, Bacerovic. Gasper Vidmar, the big man, number 14, plays professionally here in Turkey. He's come in for Slovenia. He had some good moments in Group A, or rather Group B. But Australia probably going to hold it for one shot, down by 8 against Slovenia. Took him 6.5 minutes to score a single point. Mills drives in, contact, good defense from Widmar, and the ball goes out of bounds to Slovenia. 3.6 seconds remaining.
Adam Gibson coming back in, Mills coming out again. Mills forcing it somewhat. Now, 3.5 seconds remaining in the first period. Slovenia by 8.
He's got enough time. Bounce pass, it goes, and great block from Newley from behind, because Australia were about to give away a slam to Widmar. As it is, they trail 16-8. There's another look at Newley hustling in and getting the block.
Well, Gasper Vidmar must have thought that's a guaranteed 2 points. I'm going to throw it down. Where did Brad Newley come from? Well, the rebound's pretty even there. 12 Slovenia, 11 Australia. It feels as though, or felt for much of that period, as though Slovenia were in complete control. But, well, look at that. 3 steals, Slovenia 1 against Australia, and I suspect that Slovenia may have converted from those steals. I don't think Australia did. And it feels a lot worse than 4 or 5 in turnovers as well. You have to say, Jeff, that it's only 8 points. It could have been so much worse. In the highlights we've just seen, Jeff, you've got to love the effort of Matt Nielsen. The eyes have it. What a great captain he is of the Boomers. There he is, number 14, on his way to the Greek League and the EuroLeague with Olympiacos.
Yep, Nielsen was a great player for Valencia the last couple of seasons, but decided he wanted to go try something new and will play for Dusan Ivkovic, a coach that he actually played against already since Australia and Serbia met in Group A. Lakovic, he's actually starting to play a little bit better, I think, here since that game against Brazil. And Brzezowski's going to hand the ball off to Ingles, who's going to give it over to Gibson. So Marichin starting here in the second half, or sorry, the second quarter, along with Barlow, Anderson, and Ingles, and Maric. Anderson backs up Juro Slokar into the lane. Good defense from Slokar. Anderson just hasn't gotten on track, has he?
No, neither Maric.
Ingles guarding, so it's steps out of bounds. So good defensive pressure that time by Australia, forcing the turnover.
I think Australia gone to a zone, and it moved pretty quickly there, forcing the turnover.
There's 5 turnovers now for Slovenia in the game. Gibson hands it off to Anderson. Samo Ujra is going to come into the game, Vino's brother. Anderson on the baseline, can't get it to go. Boy, he's one of the best shooters when he was in Europe. And so far, David Anderson today, he's missed 3 shots from the floor.
Winner of 3 EuroLeague medals when he was a CSKA Moscow player. And that's what interested the Houston Rockets. 7 foot, and he can shoot from anywhere, but not today so far.
Australia just 3 of 17 from the floor. That's a very cool 18%. Touch pass over to Bacerovic in the corner. And that takes the lead back to 11. Entry pass, foul called on Widmar.
Interesting defense there from Gasper Widmar. He actually lifted Alex Maric off the floor. Out of bounds, Australia. And he needs something simple. Anderson on the foul line.
Well, Anderson still can't get it to go. Anderson now 0 of 4. And Australia's shooting percentage dips just that little bit more to 17%. Lakovic, and the problem is Slovenia are going to start heating up. 22-8 in favor of the European team.
6-0 this period so far. And all those points from behind the arc.
Well, Australia had a nightmare game against Jordan, but somehow eked out a win in their first game.
And this time Anderson is fouled.
But it does make you wonder if they've been bitten by the same type of bug. Lakovic picks up his first foul.
Nielsen back in, and Mills for Australia. Australia need Matt Nielsen out there for his gritty fighting spirit. Now, can David Anderson get underway?
Australia just looking for something, anything, to spark them into life offensively. 22-9. Oh, how they would love to have Andrew Bogut, but he picked up that serious injury. That's the rebounding figures for Anderson. He picked up that injury in the NBA late in the regular season, I think it was, with Milwaukee. And they lost their really most important player before the FIBA World Championship.
Just under 8 to go in the first half. Slovenia well and truly in command, leading by 12.
Yep. Australia trying to up the pressure out on the perimeter. Widmar now guarded by Gibson down low. A mixed match. He spins. He kicks it back out to Samo Ujra for 3, and he's off the back of the rim. But Slokar with the rebound, despite a couple of rather tall Australians in the vicinity.
Well, Australia gone back to a man-to-man now. That zone worked for a minute or so.
Well, Pacerovic under pressure from Ingles. 7 on the shot clock. Lakovic. Bounce pass. Widmar back out to Slokar in the corner. It goes, and did he get it off in time? And the answer is no. Pacerovic, or rather, yes, he did, but he missed it. So now it's Pat Mills. Anderson back on the baseline where he's really comfortable. Australia whipping the ball around. Ingles in the lane and drives in. And Nielsen draws the foul. I think that's what Brown would like more than anything, because at least they can draw, get to the line.
Joe Ingles, a real handful, full of energy and invention really as well, and it's his left hand that causes a lot of problems. Newly back in, replacing Gibson.
Ingles had a good season at Granada in the Spanish ACB. So he's been playing at a very high level of competition. Had a very good Olympics, I thought, for Australia back in 2008. He was the kind of the surprise man to make that roster and made the most of it.
2 from 2 for Ingles, and it's back to a 10-point deficit for Australia. And again, really, the press was there, but it was passive.
Well, Anderson comes up on top to Widmar. He's trying to make the pass down low, back to Dragic, who's freed up by the pick. Udrih from long range, good. Well, it's back now to a 13-point advantage. Anderson fouled by Slokar.
Another timeout coming for Australia. Second of the half with a long time to go. So if he doesn't, this time it doesn't work, then Coach Brett Brown hasn't got an awful lot in his armory.
Indeed, it's timeout as we look at Samo Udrih hitting that rainbow three-pointer to put Slovenia on top, 25-12. Well, Australia doing a little bit better job on the boards right now. But it's the shooting. Just haven't gotten in sync on offense. And I think that's been the problem with the team all season long, or all summer long. Just 3 of 15 inside the arc. They've missed all 3 of their three-pointers, whereas Slovenia showing signs of starting to heat up. But Pacerovic and Udrih both hitting three-pointers.
Jeff, this is shows the perversity of basketball. Against Germany, Australia could have thrown anything up in the air and it would have gone in, and Germany completely opposite. And now we have Slovenia bombing from outside, 5 three-pointers, and Australia can't buy a score. Australia said they wish they could have taken that game against Germany into the second round. Well, they've got a lot of work to do. Lakovic there, that's his second 3. And it's only an out of bounds for Australia when the timeout finishes.
Pat Mills inbounds it to Nielsen and then comes up and takes it away from the big fella. Mills wearing those maroon Nike high tops. Nielsen drives in and gets blocked by Widmar.
Now Australia have got to take advantage of the fact that Slovenia are already in the team penalty and Australia have not been called a foul yet this period. So they can do it, they can get closer if they can get to the line. But they've got to play defense first.
Slokar, he can hit the 3, good! And Slokar now takes it to 28-12 in favor of Slovenia. Australia laying an egg right now here in the most important game of their summer. And Nielsen drives in, is fouled by Widmar.
Yeah, smart play from Nielsen. And Widmar, that's his second, I think. Yep. So now Australia are on the foul line. And a long time to go in this period, 6 minutes in fact.
And that was the block from Widmar on Nielsen, who really had some good moments against Team USA. I think he scored about 8 of his 10 points on dunks against the Americans. He's a big, strong kid. I'm sure Slovenia would like to have had Erasm Lorbeck here this year, but he had to take the summer off after a hard year with Barcelona. Nielsen makes the first, only averaging 8.8 points per game in this tournament. And something positive, at least, for Australia. They chip away, trailing by 14 points. Mark Worthington now into the game and on the ball.
I like Worthington's work ethic. He's a real tough Aussie, and he's got a good outside shot as well, actually, number 11 for Australia. That's an interesting substitution. No Anderson, no Marriage on, but Worthington there under the hoop for Australia.
But Worthington also in the Australia team back in 2006, and Slokar goes in. And Nielsen complains as Zupan comes in to check in.
Yeah, Slovenia get one warning there. They're not allowed to knock the ball away. They reverse layup, they score, and then it's Australia possession. Slovenia not allowed to touch it after they score. So one warning. Next time it'll be a technical.
The 16-point game here in favor of the Europeans, team that reached the semifinals of the Eurobasket, and despite the absences of so many key players, have really had a good FIBA World Championship. Another turnover puts it back into Slovenia's hands. And really the best player for Slovenia in this FIBA World Championship has been Boston Nachbar, and he's been kind of quiet today.
They had a quiet preparation period as well. But when they need him, I'm sure he'll come good.
Pecherovic drives against Worthington, out to Dragic, 4 on the shot clock, hands it off to Zupan, and just as he goes up, he's fouled by Worthington.
Very scrappy phase of play there. Under 5 to go in the first half, and Anderson coming back in for Nielsen as Worthington picks up his first foul.
Just cannot seem to get it going, Australia today. They thought that it was the ideal day to play, have a couple of days off and then play on 3 days off and then play on the Sunday.
Interesting situation there between Nielsen and Coach Brett Brown. Nielsen wants to get straight back in there. He's asked for another substitution. Here we go again. Coming in for Worthington, I think. Yep.
Oh, Zupan makes both free throws. So Worthington back out of the game.
Referee asking whether the request for the substitution was made.
Nope.
And I don't think he's going to allow Nielsen to come in. No, he's not. Yeah,
that was a bit strange. He didn't actually go to the table to check in. So Worthington, see if he comes in now and makes a three-pointer.
Good spot there from referee Brazauskas.
Can never fool the Lithuanian referee. That's what they say. Newley hands it off to Pat Mills. Kind of a mismatch. He may go past Zupan. Decides to shoot to Jay and knocks it down. And Mills, whose season last year was curtailed by injury for about 4 months. Spent a lot of time in the NBDL, some time with Portland. It was a nightmare year for him, really his worst. He's looking forward to getting back on track. Zupan had a good look at the jump shot, stays out. Now it's Mills.
Now don't force it, Patrick Mills. You've just scored a good 2. It's a team game.
Worthington hands it off to Ingles, who drives into the lane, and I think he walked, and it was picked up by the referee. So that turnover for Australia is now turnover number 7.
Well, Joe Ingles looking aghast, but I think he did travel. Every Slovenian player, let's have a look. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's traveling. The anguish on the face of Coach Brown there, but definitely 3 steps from Joe Ingles.
So Slokar comes out. Brezic back into the game. Depth is so important in these national team competitions because not only are you going to have some tough games, you're going to have a lot of games. So if you've got 12 players that can play, it's crucial. And Slovenia and Australia bringing players in, trying to keep them fresh. Brezic into the lane, puts it up, and Nielsen comes down with a board. Mills goes right to the basket, pulls it back out. Nielsen hands it off to Anderson. He kicks it back to Brad Newley, who is off the rim, but the ball ends up in the hands of Mills, who spots Newley, who sneaks in on the baseline and scores.
And we have a very angry coach, Bericevic of Slovenia.
Well, he's going to call a timeout. Bericevic calls the timeout. Angry, even though he's winning by 14 points. As you see the replay, something positive for Australia. Just need to get the positive vibes in that Boomers huddle. What are they talking about? For Slovenia, it's like, hey guys, let's don't relax.
Well, the ultimate perfectionist, Coach Bericevic. One mistake by Slovenia, and he's given a real tongue lashing.
Australia still yet to hit a three-pointer. Slovenia, 6 of 13, so that's really hurting the Australians. But Australia doing a better job on the boards.
What couldn't David Anderson do for a three-pointer? Nice pass there. Mills. And Jaka Lakovic running the show at the moment for Slovenia.
Well, I would imagine with 3:31 remaining here in the first half, Australia would be very happy if they could get this thing down to 10 points by halftime. It's just something psychological about 10 points. You get to 10 points, you're right in there. Now, Notchbar's come back into the game for Slovenia and struggling to get the ball in bounds. The pressure from Australia, trying to make the Slovenians work a little bit harder when they've got the ball on offense.
Now, don't ease off the pressure now, Australia. That was almost a 5-second call. Don't allow anything easy now. Keep the defense working. It's in single figure. Oh, and there's the foul against Anderson. But luckily for him, that's only the second team foul.
Yep. Number 2 on David Anderson. Alex Merritt is going to come back into the game for Australia.
Well, a very disappointed looking David Anderson there, but let's see what Maric can do. He's not having a particularly good tournament either.
Goran Dragic, so tough to guard up top. Wide open Miha Zupan, and he's going to hit that every single time. And how in the world could Australia leave one of those Slovenian jump shooters open?
17 points now, the margin.
Maric tries to go to work against Brezic. Just can't get it to go down. Alex Maric.
Foul, Brad Newley.
Well, Newley claiming he got something in the eye, but it's going to fall on deaf ears, and it's a 17-point lead for Slovenia. Still not in the bonus. Dragic going to inbound it, see if they can get something cheap here off the inbounds. They take it back out. 2.5 minutes to go here in the first half. Dragic. He's very shifty out on the perimeter. Now he's guarded by Maric and puts it up, and affected by the height, no doubt, by Maric, and shoots an air ball.
Sigh of relief there from Brad Newley. He thought he may have touched the ball before it went out of bounds, but the referee said it had already bounced out of bounds.
Now Pat Mills, Australia. Pat Mills pulls up for three. Could it be? No. Still missed it, and Newley had a chance to give it to a wide open Ingles outside. Tried to attack the basket, and Newley is bleeding. He's called something on the eyebrow, and I don't think he knows it, but the nature of the game, sometimes you catch blows. He's got to come out of the game. And here's the foul by Nielsen, but it was the play down. It was the play at the other end before that where Newley obviously caught a blow to the eye. 2 minutes, 6 seconds remaining. Just a nightmare first half for Australia.
Well, confusion reigns at the moment as to who Coach Brett Brown wants on the floor. Anderson came out. He's gone back in again now for Nielsen.
Dragic over to Notchbar. Barlow into the game. Dragic goes right past Ingles. Bounce past to Brezic. And that's what pace will do for you. If you beat your man, somebody else has to come and help out, and that means somebody's going to be open. 1:43 to go in the first half. And Slovenia threatening to run Australia out of the gym. Anderson for three. Again misses. Good rebound from Maric. Ingles. Maric. And Dragic trying to help out down low, and he fouls Alex Maric.
And puts Maric on the foul line. Slovenia in the penalty.
Well, I don't think Alex Maric is a great free throw shooter.
The work rate of these Slovenians is phenomenal. Leading by 19 points. And they've restricted a pretty good Australian team to only 18 points in 18 and a half minutes. A point a minute for Australia.
Well, stand corrected. Maric in this tournament is actually shooting 80%, but he misses that one. And 19-point deficit for the Boomers.
Well,
you could almost accept this if it was against, you would say that USA would probably be the best team or one of the best teams in the tournament, but Slovenia are really good, but they shouldn't be beating the Aussies by 20 points at halftime.
And that's a two-shot foul committed 85 feet from the hoop.
And the foul was also on David Anderson. That's number 3. So he picks up his third foul with 1:23 remaining here in the first half. It just gets worse for the Boomers. I thought it couldn't get any worse, but it has.
Jeff, a lot of this game is played in the head, and Australia said their main intention was to avoid the Americans. Just whether they came into this game a little bit too relaxed. Well, that's not taking anything away from a very, very good Slovenian team.
I think you've made a very valid point there. I mean, maybe they've almost underestimated how good Slovenia are. Outlet to Pat Mills, over to Ingles. Australia, again, trying to chip away at that large deficit. Coming up on the 1-minute mark remaining. Mills drives and scores. That takes it down to 17.
Last minute of the first half. Now, Australia, they have to dig deep. Get out to these three-point shooters.
Lakovic up top. Barlow now on him. Over to Zupan. He's hit a three. So is Dragic. Dragic into the lane and drives in, and the block called on Australia. The great leaper that Goran Dragic is. And that's really been a big story in this game. His ability to get into the lane and draw the defense to him. And that time he took it to the hole and drew the foul.
Well, Australia trying to draw the charging foul there, but David Barlow lost his man and then held him.
Dragic makes the first one. Back to there's a 17-point game. From the line today, Slovenia shooting 75%, 9 of 12, make it 10 of 13. Quickly up to Ingles. Maric battles Brezic. And Brezic called for the foul, or rather, Maric called for the foul on Primoz Brezic.
Well, if we got a replay of that, it was 50-50. It was a wrestling match in there. And the
Here we go.
Yeah, the referee saw the last contact. Well drawn there by Brezic. No shooting foul, though, because Australia were in possession.
Well, the final 30 seconds of the first half. Slovenia looking to go out now with an even bigger lead. About 10-second differential on the shot clock and the game clock. Dragic over to Lakovic. Brezic sets the pick, and Lakovic takes advantage. A three-pointer. It's a 21-point lead, the largest of the game. Somebody please wake up the Australians. And an air ball, was it a block? Dragic, and I don't believe they've got it off in time, but it doesn't matter because Slovenia taking a stranglehold on this game here at the end of the first half. They lead it 42-21 over a completely out of sync Australian team.
Well, 21-point deficits have been overcome in the past, but just looking at the body language of the Australian players, I'm not sure they believe. Possibly the worst half of basketball they played in a long, long time.
Well, Slovenia 8 of 17 from three-point range. To compare that, 24 points for them from three-point range, none for Australia. I mean, the
تسع تقريبا حوالي 17,000 متفرج. يعني اليوم إذا بنوصل لمرحلة إنه الفاينل كرة السلة بيحضروا 17,000 شخص وملايين على التلفزيون،
معناتها كرة بطولة عالم رقم 17,000 رقم ضئيل يعني.
لا بس اليوم كرة
السلة بوليس يعني
في 25,000 وفي 30,000.
بس انه بتركيا صالة تتسع لهذا الكم من الاعداد، يعني تعتبر
كذا صالة.
لا انه تعتبر الاعداد يعني 17,000 تعتبر ممتازة يعني.
طبعا. وعم يقول لك امبارح الشخص اللي عملت معه آسيا المقابلة من شركة تنظيم عم يقول لك التذاكر كلها تنباعت
نافذة من زمان يعني اول ما بدت البطولة.
وانا بقول لك لو مو الدنيا رمضان وبيجوز بتعرف تركيا نوعا ما نسبة نسبة كبيرة عالية. كنت هلا المباراة الثانية رح نشيلك انه تركيا حتشوف الملعب ولعان يعني.
على كل حال هذه كما يقول لي حازم انه هذه تعتبر اكبر صالة باوروبا حاليا. على
اوروبا
يعني نعم باوروبا 17,000.
انا شو الفكرة اخي جورج، لما بتوصل انت بكأس عالم كرة سلة لهالرقم هذا يحضر النهائي، معناتها كرة السلة صارت بمرحلة عم تنافس فعلا رياضات كثير مهمة. انا هذا اللي كنت
يعني انه بدك تقول لي انه اذا بحيالها دولة عربية وجدنا صالة تتسع ل 10 أو 15,000 متفرج سيحضر هذا العدد؟
أنا بقول لك بيحضروا 100%. يعني بزمانه لما كان في منافسة بين الحكمة خلينا نقول والوحدة أو سوريا ولبنان، وكان في كرة سلة كانت أنا برأيي
ما كان في تنافس بين سوريا ولبنان
أبدا.
لا بالرياضة
بالرياضة
لا كان يعني كان في مباريات حلوة
أصلا جيت إجازة.
لا ما عندي شيء.
المباراة زمانها كلوز جيم جورج ما أنا حلوة، كنا ننبسط فيها. أنا واحد من الناس كنت إذا ما في جمهور باللعبة ما حضر المباراة 13,000 شخص.
يا أنور السنة في الإيست والويست 108,000 متفرج.
ملعب
بيسبول 108 و700
تم تجهيز ملعب بيسبول مرتب.
يعني تخيل أنت 108,000 متفرج، يعني كرة القدم لم يحضر هذا الرقم.
صحيح يعني هذا تأكيدا للكلام يعني.
على كل حال الشوط الثاني السيناريو برأيك مطابق للشوط الاول؟ يعني هاي فهمتوا منك انه سلوفينيا نفس الاسلوب لن تغير.
استراليا يمكن تحاول اقوى من ما شاهدناه في البدايه.
طيب تبقى مشكله فاول ترابل عن بعض اللاعبين في استراليا هي اساس الاداء اللي راح يستغله سلوفينيا.
اكيد طبعا من الطبيعي جدا. هذا هو انت اشتغل على اخطاء الفريق اللي قدامك.
نعم
المؤشرات كلها بتقول سلوفينيا حتفوت بالشوط الثالث، ترفع الفرق شوي وترتاح.
لنرى كم سيكون الفارق في الشوط الثاني بين المنتخبان الذي سيدخل احدهما الى الربع النهائي لمواجهة الفائز بين تركيا وفرنسا مباراة هذه روسيا. إذن الآن نترككم مشاهدينا نذهب إلى زميلنا نواف حمدي ومتابعة هذه المباراة بالتعليق بشوط الثاني. تفضل نواف.
Against the Americans stunk, they really did. But the men here, the one redeeming factor is that you can always guarantee an Australian team will fight, and Coach Brett Brown will not allow their heads to go down too far. He will demand them that they fight for this. 21 points is not insurmountable, and as commentators we shouldn't show any partiality whatsoever, but we do want close games. So come on, Aussie!
Absolutely. Well, I for one like both of these teams, so I don't really care who wins, but I do know one thing: Australia are a much better team than what they've shown today, and I'm just wondering if Brown might bring somebody in like Damian Martin to try to spark the team into life, or if he might install that to give away the odd fast break. I mean, I think the Slovenian guards, they were worried about it before the game, and really they haven't been able to control because they spread the offense and then they let Dragic penetrate, and if somebody drops off to help him, somebody's always going to be open. So here's Dragic as well, shooting the three and missing, and Slokar called for the push.
And Coach Brett Brown has kept faith with his starting five. He started with this five at the beginning of the game. They had a nightmare start. They went 12-0 behind. At least they've got a foul called in their favor now. And some good pressure again from Slovenia.
But Lakovic with token pressure, making Australia work maybe a little bit of time off that clock. Nielsen sets the pick. Mills, and from the corner, Gibson misses. Now, Mills, in my opinion, could have taken that all the way. The ball goes out of bounds to Australia, but the three-pointers aren't falling for Australia, and clearly they want to get something going, and maybe it'll have like a domino effect.
Testament there, the fact that Coach Bečirovic has said to his Slovenian players, it's not over yet. They're still hustling for their very lives.
Lakovic guarding Mills. Anderson trying to get something to go down, and he does. That's a two. He's well inside the arc, but they'll take anything from him they can get. They just need to get into the shooting rhythm.
Yeah, let's hope Anderson has shaken off the tummy bug that he had the last couple of days. And that will encourage him, those two.
Lakovic for three, no good, off the rim, and
well, that's Australia, 2 rebounds.
Australia come up with it. Gibson now. Again, Nielsen sets the pick. Nielsen puts his head down, hands it off to Anderson, and that could be an unsportsmanlike, but no.
Very, very close. Wasn't an attempt to get the ball. Let's have a look.
Watch it, and I think he's very, very fortunate. I know you felt like last night, I think, was it Spain against Greece, and Spain wrapped up one of the Greek players and it wasn't given. So Slovenia perhaps a little bit fortunate to get away. Notchbar, who hasn't really been the factor that he was in all 5 games in the group stage. But Anderson, I'm telling you, is a great shooter. Free throw shooter, shooter from the floor, and is just completely out of his game right now. Look at that.
Not just a great shooter, he's a great player. Well, Australia, first 3 points of this half. Now, if this is a reverse of the first half, then we have a game on our hands.
Yeah, at least Australia didn't wait 6.5 minutes to score into the half like they did in the first half against Slovenia. Dragic into the lane, over to Lakovic, who dumps it off to Brezic at the line, and Brezic hits it. And the Slovenians do have good jump shooters, and that's the problem that you have if you're Australia. You leave them open, they're going to kill you. Mills. Goodness gracious, it's just not falling, but good hustle from Nielsen. Bounce pass, takes it back over to Ingles. Nielsen wants to take the three. No, it's going to be Ingles, and not going to go. I could tell from here it wasn't going.
Well, that's the Matt Nielsen we all like and love, because he hustled that. He was almost in the corridor then when he retrieved that ball.
Lakovic, now Ingles with the turnover. Looks up the floor, almost turns it over. Nielsen drives in, is bumped, and gets a chance for a three-point play. And talking to the Australian journalist that I know here at halftime, he said, I don't want to see Australia go out like this. I don't care if they go out fighting, but they have come out playing with a sense of urgency here in the second half.
And on the foul line is the original Australian fighter, Matt Nielsen. That's why he's the captain. He will never quit.
And Slokar with 3 fouls. Lakovic comes out of the game, is replaced by Bečirovic. And Lakovic, I don't know if he's upset that he's been pulled out or if he's upset with himself. but Bečirovic out of your screen, looking bemused. And Nielsen makes the free throw for the three-point play and takes that deficit down to 17 points.
And here's
full court pressure. Mills. Dragic breaks it, hands it off to Brezic, and he scores with ease, and you know that's going to happen.
That's how to break a press, attack it.
Here comes Gibson, the other end. Oh, just hands it out, turns it over. Notch bar, a little bit out of control for the Australians. Dragic. Notch bar in the lane, and that's the Notch bar that's been playing in Istanbul, baby. Drives and releases with that right hand.
Well, the good start from Australia, all to nothing, because it's back to a 21-point game.
Ingles over to Anderson for three. That could be in. It is, and the three-pointer finally goes down for Australia. The first three-pointer to go down, 1 of 11. Let's see if that can get the other threes to start falling. 18-point advantage for Slovenia, trying to keep the pressure on. Pacerovic, now Slokar, he can hit it, and it looks good, and it is. Ingles.
Now Ingles can shoot threes as well, but he's not had a look at the hoop yet.
Mills penetrates, pulls up for two. Well, at least some of the shots are falling, but it really is the case. I'm looking out there right now at that Slovenia team, and they've got 4 3-point shooters on the floor, including Slokar. And even Brezic, I'm sure, could knock him down. So that's the difficulty. They're going to force Australia to extend that D. Pacerovic, well guarded, though, and gets the long rebound.
Well, Coach Brett Brown still urging his players on to play defense against Angola. They didn't play defense at the first 5 minutes. Then they gave him 35 minutes of superb defense. And that's what's required now.
Notch bar for three, and it's going in. The three-pointer takes Slovenia 10 of 21 from long range, and Pat Mills turns it over. The 22-point advantage. So all the good work for Australia done, it's gotten worse coming up on the midway point here in the third quarter. Dragic into the lane, dumps it to Brezic.
Second time that Brezic has gone inside like that, using the ironwork to protect the shot, and there's no way you're going to block that, and it's a 24-point lead for Slovenia. Great move there from Brezic.
Another look at Brezic as he goes up and scores, and Australia calling a timeout to try to stop the bleeding and get something positive. But it just seems it's getting worse and worse for the Boomers.
Well, no one in the Australian timeout wants to look the coach in the eye. They're all looking around them. The only player really responding to the coach, Matt Nielsen. Slovenia, a better passing team at the moment. It's almost as if Brett Brown is pleading with his players.
And there's a three-point shooting. It confirms Slovenia 48%. Any team will take that.
Well, they're outscoring Australia.
What's interesting is that New Zealand, as you saw there, winning the Oceania Championship, but they ended up coming in with the lower seed. And right now, you'd have to say, playing maybe the better basketball here at the FIBA World Championship than Australia. Zupan with the rebound off Worthington's miss. Goran Dragic, Australia in the 2-3 zone, trying to cut off all of this flow of points from Slovenia, but they're not, you're winning big. They're very relaxed out there, the Slovenians. And Widmar comes in, almost gets the steal.
Nakbar the foul. Well, the effort is there from the Australians, but not the application. Joe Ingles is running around like a maniac on defense, but his hands are down, and that's why Nakbar just had an easy two. Out of bounds, Australia.
Well, that's Notch bar. It's very difficult to guard. 6'9", good jump shooter, can take it to the hoop. Nielsen, much more senior player than Widmar. Newley, and I think bailed out by the referee there. Foul called on Slovenia.
It's Nakbar again, but Slovenia by 26. And Nakbar just having a little word with the official.
I don't think Slovenia will be too concerned about that, up by 26. But 4:40 remaining in the third quarter. They want to keep the pressure on. And remember, the winner of this game will play the winner of Turkey v. France, which is next. Newley The 25-year-old makes the first one. Basketball is a game of streaks. It's a game of runs. Australia trying to get on a long overdue run. Newley misses the free throw. Good D from Nielsen, who hustles and gets the ball back for Australia. Well, if they're all playing as hard as Nielsen, they've got a chance. Newley penetrates and has the layup, that has the shot that he wants, and doesn't score.
Well, Newley annoyed with himself. Misses the layup and then commits the foul. You can tell he's been in the wars. Here we go. Here's the miss. And there's the foul.
25-point lead.
And again, Slovenia very early on in the penalty. Australia one foul, but 25 points behind. That's staggering.
And the Slovenian fans up, cheering as the offense gets back into gear, and Nachbar drives and draws the foul.
It's an offensive foul.
Called the charge. I thought it was, but the way the reaction, the body language of Nachbar, but Ingles had good position.
Well, in actual fact, the official pointed to the guy lying on the floor and then changed his mind and pointed to Nachbar.
It's almost as if he pointed at the man on the floor, then looked at the scoreboard and said, okay, we'll call it on Slovenia. It's a 25-point lead. Mills, see if somebody can pop another three-pointer for Australia. Zupan comes out on Mills. Well-prepared team, the Slovenians, for this game. Mills.
The three.
He can hit him. He did it at the Olympics.
Jeff, we've got to go back to the group stage and have to remember that Australia got within 4 of Argentina and were very close to a memorable win there. They beat Germany by 35. They beat Angola, and here they are on the end of a real hammering from Slovenia.
Well, into the lane it goes. Samo Udry, and Newley almost jumped too soon. Gets it over to Mills. Australia looked for something in transition. Mills going to put up the three. No good. And Widmar with the rebound. Well, I think Group A was extremely balanced. I think when the draw was made, you knew that there was not a clear favorite in that group, even as good as Argentina has been over the years. Bacerovic drains the three. Back to a 25-point advantage. And Bacerovic with the foul.
Great transition defense there from Slovenia. They scored the three and then back to protect their huge lead.
I am surprised that we haven't seen Damian Martin for Australia. Anyway, timeout on the floor by Australia as the dancers come out. Slovenia have to be happy. They're probably thinking maybe about resting some guys. Lakovic talking to his teammates. What do you say in the huddle in this situation?
If you're Australia, well, you say it ain't over yet. There's still 13 minutes of the game remaining, unless, of course, we can force it to overtime, and that would take a seismic shock to do that. But it's been done before. And what do you say if you're Slovenia? You just say, right, we run the clock, and we don't commit any silly fouls, don't give them any gifts, and keep hitting those threes.
Well, Slovenia let a big lead slip against Brazil. It was 17 points, but this is 25. And the problems that they had against Brazil, Jaka Lakovic said, was that they started protecting their lead.
So maybe it is a little bit early to run the clock down.
Well, Damian Martin is going to check in, number 4, as the Slovenian fans look on. 19-4 the bench scoring tonight in favor of Slovenia. But that's really no surprise because Australia haven't really gotten any points from anybody.
That's an interesting substitution of Damian Martin. He can hit threes.
He's come in for Pat Mills. And the free throw's good, so that takes it now to 24 points. think it was Damian Martin. Wasn't it Martin that almost hit the three-pointer? Was it against Argentina late in the game?
Yep.
Joe Ingles.
Yeah. Martin also turned the game against Angola as well.
Now we're going to have a full-court press here, trying to get a turnover. Udra inbounds the ball. David Barlow on Miha Zupan, and Newley almost reaches in and steals it away from Lakovic. 7 seconds taken off the shot clock. Worthington, that's what he's good at as well. Quite versatile. Good on the defensive end. Pacerovic, 7 on the shot clock. Into the lane, bounce pass to Widmar, and the same thing that Dragic does. Pacerovic draws the defense. The man comes over to help, and Widmar's left wide open.
And the great thing about that pass, it was a no-look pass as well. No one knew that Pacerovic was going to throw a bounce pass then. And that's Australia possession somehow.
But Newley handing the ball off to Anderson. Here's another look at it. Watch, he draws the defense, and Worthington, and you can see what upset Pacerovic, because Worthington kind of raised his arms and made contact with the face of Pacerovic. And Martin throws it away, chases down the ball, but it just isn't happening right now for the Boomers.
Well, what Slovenia have said is that they've got their man down and they're going to keep their foot on his neck. Go for the jugular. Teasing them.
Anderson called for the foul as he runs past. That's his 4th foul. So the mismatch, and Pacerovic, understanding the situation, forces Anderson to foul. Much harder for the big man to move his feet.
The look of anguish on the faces of those Aussies. Here's Lakovic.
Lakovic into the lane and scores it. 65-38. Martin picks up the foul from Miha Zupan.
And Martin will go to the line. Nielsen still half believes, I think. I wonder whether the coach does. First time I've seen the Australian assistant coaches stay seated.
Well, one of those is Shane Hill, one of the great players in Australian basketball history. Played on this famous teams that played at the Olympics in 1996. Had a run-in with Charles Barkley. Martin makes both free throws, but takes it down to 25 points. Lakovic thinks about the baseball pass, pulls it back. I think Zupan has been a very pleasant surprise for Slovenia this summer. Here he is right here for 3, mails it right on cue. He gives you a good body to bang the boards, but he's also, he's a good three-point shooter. Worthington. Into the lane it goes. Great defense from Zupan. Commits the foul, but continue to make Australia work hard for their points.
4 fouls, Zupan. But it matters not one jot because Slovenia go a long way down the bench. Zupan's coming out, and he'll be replaced by Hasan Rizvic.
And Rizvic hasn't played much in this FIBA World Championship. Adam Gibson going to come back into the game for Australia. And Worthington makes the first one. But Zupan today, 2 of 4 from three-point range, and he was shooting 30% coming into the competition. Worthington makes the second one.
Newley comes out, replaced by Adam Gibson.
So the full court press still on for Australia. Almost got the 5-second call that time. Pacerovic now. Cross court. Now somebody's open. Udrip hands it off to Widmar. It's probably a good team to press against right now.
Nielsen goes to the line. Interesting watching Matt Nielsen dribble the ball down the floor then. I don't think he really wanted to dribble. Every time he bounced it, he looked down at the ball just to make sure it was still there. Let's say he's not the best dribbler in the world. Certainly got a big heart.
That's a bad even though it's a 26-point lead, that's a bad foul because, you know, you put them on the line, you let them catch their breath, and then if he makes both free throws, they're able to set up in the press with 1 minute to go here in the third quarter. Well, Matthew Nielsen now has 10 points in the game, 6 rebounds. Hasn't taken a three-pointer today. He's got some range. This is the second one. And good strong rebound from Widmar. So unable to set up the press. Gibson has to come up and take Bacerovic. Now it's Lakovic at the top of the key. The left-hander. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Lakovic takes the three. And they're just throwing him in from long range. Now how's this? 54% from three-point range, Slovenia. And Nielsen, good strong move to the basket.
You got to say 54% from the perimeter against a very, well, what is normally a good defensive outfit. Coach Brett Brown has made this Australian team fight on defense, but today I'm afraid Slovenia are toying with them.
Well, 13 of 24 from long range, Slovenia, and holding it for the last shot here of the third quarter. And they had a foul to give away. So that means now Slovenia will reset it. Well, the shot clock you don't need to reset. So Bacerovic is going to inbound the ball, see if they can free up Samo Udra, who's a good shooter. Or Lakovic. Lakovic into the lane, over to Bacerovic, who can hit it, and off the rim, and the good rebound from Nielsen, and the long shot, too hard, too long. 71-45, Slovenia 10 minutes away from the quarterfinals unless a terrific comeback is on the cards from the Australians. It ain't over till it's over, so don't go anywhere.
"39 points from that 6.25 meter line as opposed to 6 for Australia. There's your 33-point margin. In actual fact, it's only 26. And I always say 20 points is not insurmountable, but I'm not sure about 26 with 1 period to go. Maybe, well, it's possible, but unlikely.
Well, I do think that what has to happen here is Australia in this 8 finals game against Slovenia, trailing by a large deficit. I think they've got no choice almost. They've got to come out and continue to press and maybe try to make the game a little bit frantic, try to get some points in transition, but you can't set up your press if you don't score, and if you miss, you miss your second free throw out of the 2 free throws. So.
And I don't expect Coach Bacerovic of Slovenia to come out with anything other than a strong 5. He's not going to put his bench on possibly until the last couple of minutes. Well, Australia possession at the beginning of this 4th period. And remember, the losers in the last 16, the 8th finals, do not take any further part in the tournament. It's a long way to Australia. Again, great defense. Lakovic making Mills work.
Well, Mills brings it over. Mills had a tough game today for the Australians. Ingles, his 3-point attempt, bangs around the rim and comes out, but Pat Mills today just 5 of 13 from the floor, 1 of 7 from 3-point range. The trap. Lakovic recognizes it. Slovenia. Rizvic pops up, and the ball goes out of bounds and off of Slovenia. So good defensive pressure from Australia. Need something good to happen.
Now, what Australia don't need to do now is rush it. Don't panic. That's what Patrick Mills has been doing for most of this game, taking a shot too early.
Nielsen for three, off the rim. Well, he had to look.
Well, you can't get 26 points back in a minute. And Australia at the moment taking a shot far too soon. And that's easy to say if they miss, but I suppose if they hit, then they're taking them at the right time. But at the moment, they're taking too little time to set up the offense. 5
on the shot clock for Lakovic, top of the key. And a rare miss for him and for Slovenia. Ball goes out of bounds. Now 8:51 remaining. I mean, Rizvic hasn't played too much. But yeah, Notchbar comes back into the game. Samo Udra. The only player that I think that hasn't gotten off the bench today for Slovenia, well, is going to be Jaka Klobukar. Nope, Goran Jagodnik also hasn't played. Gibson feeds the ball to Nielsen. Gibson penetrates, asks for help. Back to Nielsen. He's going to have to end up taking a tough shot here. 4 on the shot clock. And wants the foul. Nothing given. Good defense from Slovenia. Rizvic back outside to Bacerovic. And really, it's quite an amazing story developing with this Slovenian team. A team missing so many of the key players that helped them get to the semifinals. Missing the coach of the last year's EuroBasket team. And yet, just like that team last year in Poland at the EuroBasket, they continue to thrive in the adversity. They get better and better.
And you have to think, what does Benny Udrich think when he sees this result, if in fact it stays like this? He didn't want to play because he wasn't getting the court time, he thought. And it's a foul, Patrick Mills.
Yep, frustration, Pat Mills, and good defense from Notchbar.
Third foul, Mills. Brad Newley in, and a very disappointed Adam Gibson out.
And for Slovenia, Widmar takes a seat, and now Goran Jagodnik comes into the game. And still no Klobukar. Notchbar, Bacerovic. Slovenia, Lakovic drains the three. And it's now a 29-point lead, the biggest of the game for Slovenia.
And again, a lovely no-look pass from Bacerovic. Found his man in the corner who nailed it.
Good hands from Slovenia, knock it away. 15 on the shot clock. Just haven't been at the races today, Australia.
Well, they almost recovered from that 12-0 start, but well, as you say, they've just not been able to get anything going. Remember, Alex Marriage.
4 on the shot clock. Mills over to Nielsen. He's got to put up a desperation three, and they just look worse and worse for the Australians. Now Bacerovic. Again, a Slovenia with no Lorbeck brothers. No Matjas Smotis. A team that changed coaches. A team that has overcome so much, and yet the deep pool of talent, the focus, the concentration, the experience, the good experience that they have. This is going to be a new territory for them, getting to the quarterfinals if they can finish off this Australian team, which it looks like they probably will. Bacerovic into the lane, has his shot blocked, and Anderson comes away with it. Zip pass, and even Newley loses control of it. Just seems like the body language isn't there for Newley.
I don't think it is for any of the Australians now, Jeff. And the thing about Slovenia, small nation, 3 million people, sports mad. They like football, ice hockey, and they absolutely love their basketball.
And they like to ski. Don't forget about that.
Nielsen comes out. Worthington in. He's another fighter, but they need more than that now.
Oh. Jagodnik guarding Worthington, Anderson, and Jagodnik called for the foul as Mills comes through the lane. That was an easy call. Jagodnik, kind of a hard man in this Slovenia team.
Yeah, we call him the Iron Man. 36 years of age now, and well, built out of granite, Slovenian granite.
But his minutes have been cut since last year's EuroBasket team, and he was one of the big important players in that team.
Yeah,
because of all the injuries that kept coming, and you know.
Well, I've got him down as 6'7", but he looks a lot bigger than that. And I tell you what, he's another one who can shoot threes.
Well, you don't want to meet him in a dark alley.
No way.
Here comes Ingles, and he's almost going to dunk it, but he thought better of it with Notch Bar right there. He just laid it in.
Yeah, no point in breaking your wrist now.
Slovenia still want to do what they do right. They don't want to get in any bad habits. Lakovic over to Jagodnik. Notch Bar, and Ingles draws the charge. The Notch Bar plays professionally here at FS Pilsen. He, for some reason, didn't figure as prominently in that team as he expected. And they've had a change in coaching, and he's fully expecting to be a much more prominent man under Velimir Parasovic.
He was the same at Dinamo Moscow as well. He expected to be a main player there, but, well, it didn't work out for him. Changed clubs, didn't work out there either. Been to the NBA, Houston, New Orleans, New Jersey. Much travelled. Good player, but let's say he's inconsistent.
Well, it's definitely working with Slovenia. Mills inside, hits the shot, and the foul as well. Was it on David Anderson or was it on Slovenia?
It's against Australia, so that's a team foul.
Yeah, it's on Anderson, so he's fouled out of the game. The basket will count, just under 6 minutes remaining, so the nightmare is over personally for David Anderson, who takes a seat. Nielsen back into the game. Full court pressure, and they hand it off, and now it's a 2-on-1. And Dragic goes in and blocks Dragic, and no foul was called.
Coach Brachurovic cannot believe there's no foul called there. I don't think Matt Nielsen can believe he got away with that either. Here we go. Well, Brachurovic says, what do you want, ref? Blood?
Australia sitting in a 2-3 zone.
Not even halfway through this fourth period yet, and the Slovenian fans celebrating.
Jagodnik for three, count it. Well, everybody else is making them for Slovenia, why not? Goran Jagodnik, 15 of 29, back over 50% now, 52% from three-point range. Mills drives in and has it swatted by Rizvic.
Well, the Slovenian defense was saying there, go on then if you dare, we'll block it, and they did. And Mills fell for it, hook, line, and sinker.
Boston Notch Bar. Well, you have to wonder on this evidence about Australia's prospects for making it to London, especially considering the way New Zealand are playing and depending on who will be available next summer and who won't for Australia. 4 fouls on Nielsen. But maybe, you know, as this tournament progresses, as Lakovic goes out over on the bench, just thinking about Australia's prospects, they're not looking the most promising right now. And I thought they actually played okay in Group A.
They did. They came third. Could quite easily have come second. Absolutely demolished Germany. That's a travel. Oh, it's a foul.
No foul called before.
Joe Ingles asking the referee, well, who's that on them? It's Worthington, his second, and Australia's fourth.
You know, Australia brought in Maric. They didn't have Bogut. They didn't have C.J. Bruton this summer, but it's kind of a moot point, really, when you consider how well they did play in Group A. They've just come out today and just have not functioned, is maybe the best way to put it. And much of the credit goes to Slovenia.
Absolutely, but this is a shadow of the team.
Dragic for three.
It's a shadow of the team that lost by 4 to Argentina as this three-point barrage continues. 31 points the margin. And remember, Germany lost by 35 to Australia.
And Nielsen drives in and gets blocked by Rizvic, who's becoming rather lively. A couple of blocks on Australia's last 2 trips down the floor.
What a lovely pass. Pass on the big guy.
82-49. Ingles.
Under all kinds of pressure, as every Australian is.
Timeout, Brett Brown.
This is going to be a very interesting timeout.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's MundoBasket time!
There's the block. That's one of the blocks from Rizvic. And then here is the other one on Nielsen. And, well, maybe Rizvic will develop into a factor here in the latter stages of the FIBA World Championship. First ever appearance, it appears, for Slovenia in the quarterfinals of the FIBA World Championship.
Contrast there, the fans, the Slovenian fans loving it. They're partying. And the Australian fans, well, they can't bear to watch.
That's just really good three-point shooting from Slovenia, but in the first quarter, it wasn't that good for Slovenia. And the fact that Australia just couldn't get into their rhythm, you know, the first quarter, Slovenia hit just 2 of 7 from three-point range. And then at halftime, they were 8 of 17. So they eventually found their range as Australia just remained completely out of sync.
Out of bounds, Australia, 10 on the shot clock. 3:50 to go in the game.
Pat Mills into Matthew Nielsen, or Joe Ingles, and Joe Ingles scores, and Klobuchar is in the game, number 8, one of the guards, as well as Goran Dragic. So the starting point guard still on the floor. Klobuchar, cross, and it goes to Rizvic. Well, Rizvic, I think, has played quite well.
And a great pass there from the big guy, Jagodnik. Yeah, reaching in.
Yep, the help from Dragic. It's interesting, Slovenia not wanting to give anything away. Maintaining that concentration.
Well, Slovenia are very keen to send a message to either France or Turkey here. There are going to be no pushovers.
Well, France will certainly remember Slovenia if they end up playing them from the Eurobasket in 2007, that crucial game that knocked them out of the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament. Air ball chased down by Australia. Worthington for 3. No good. How do you bounce back from this if you're Australia? You've got to take a long look in the mirror. And up ahead it goes to Joe Ingles. Draws the foul from Goran Dragic. Not Zoran, his brother, who didn't make the team, but don't be surprised in the future if we do see 2 Dragic's.
But again, what an effort from Slovenia in transition. 2 people back, even though Joe Ingles was ahead of him initially on the break. Okay, there's a foul, but the hustle from Slovenia has been outstanding. Been very little sign of the energy that Joe Ingles normally introduces into this Australian effort. A very philosophical, pensive-looking Brad Newley there.
How could it go so wrong? I just, you know, I mean, especially for a team coming out of Group A, which just had so many close games. It's almost like the break came at the wrong time. They needed to keep playing.
Well, their last game was a 15-point defeat by Serbia, but there's no way that was a 15-point game. It was more or less a 4 or 5-point game until it was, with about 30 seconds to go, Serbia just ran in point after point. The game was over. There was no way a 15-point game. They're a good team, Australia, but they've just been outclassed today.
I think Rizvic is, you know, has actually come out, even though he's come out with his team with a huge lead, I've actually been impressed with his game. I just wonder if he might start figuring in that rotation a little bit more.
Matt Nielsen, another rebound. I suspect he may be on his way to a double-double. Little comfort, and then throws the ball back court.
And Klobuchar hustles down. Worthington picks it up. 86-52. I don't think anybody, you know, there were people who are expecting an Australian win today?
Well, a lot of people walking around saying, who do you think is going to win? Is it Slovenia? So it was undecided. This had close game written all over it, but Slovenia, they thought otherwise. Well, next time Australia comes to a major competition, they'll be saying we want to avoid the Americans, and there's no way we want to play Slovenia again.
Absolutely. Klobuchar comes in, draws the foul.
Aaron Baines in for the first time. Big number 12 for Australia. Well, the Boomer fans very, very happy up in Kayseri. But an entirely different situation today.
Just 23. Klobuchar was in that team last year as well. He is a talent, but it's awfully difficult to get a lot of playing time in a team when you've got the Lakoviches and the Baceroviches and so many good guards, the Dragic's. Barlow, he makes it. Well, 33-point lead for Slovenia. Samo loses control, but it falls to Rizvic.
Classic case there of good individual defense, but it's the pass, the next pass, no one trying to deny the next pass in, and here go Australia on the break. 4 against 2, they must score.
Nielsen behind his back, and
Baines throws it down, his first impact. Aaron Baines looks as though he could play number 8.
I was about to say,
in another game.
He lifts a few weights, Aaron Baines. Big, strong kid. See if he has a future with this Australian team. And Nielsen, or rather Ingles, comes up with a steal. And instead of dunking it, goes up and lays it up and in. So back to a 29-point game. Final minute of an agonizing afternoon, or early evening for Australia. Zupan hands it off to Udre. Over it goes to Jagodnik. Slovenia continue to run their offense even to the last seconds. And I think it's safe to say Australia haven't been allowed to run their offense. Good job from Slovenia on both ends of the floor. 27 seconds and counting. So it's going to be Slovenia in the quarterfinals. I think, knowing the makeup, I'm watching them play, they're going to hope that Turkey wins against France so they can play against the home team. But it'll be interesting. Even the layup from Ingles stays out.
The interesting thing about Slovenia is they get better and better and better. And there's the final action in the game.
And it's 87-58. Slovenia completely blow out Australia team and send the Boomers home. Not so much in disgrace, but really, I think, as a wake-up call that the international game is more than just the USA and some of the other heavyweights. You got to be ready to play against every team out there.
Yeah, very, very easy to say Australia played badly, but you have to hand it to Slovenia. Slovenia made Australia play badly. Their defense was terrific, and their outside game was phenomenal. Jaka Lakovic, 32-year-old, veteran player now, and he played like a veteran as well. What a player, the Barcelona point guard.
That's a Slovenia team. Remember, they made it to the semifinals of the EuroBasket last year, and here they are going to the quarterfinals of the FIBA World Championship for the very first time. That mission has been accomplished. How far can Slovenia go?
There's the evidence, 16 three-pointers, 48 points from behind the arc, as opposed to Australia's 6. 18 assists as well. Great game from the Slovenian point guards. And amazingly, Slovenia